And this is one of the key moments in the story, because you said once that when the war is on, when the conflict is on, wherever you point a camera, there's something happening, something going on. So you just the story is there, but also you realize it's a business, and then you realize that if you turn on the other side, if you turn to the other side, you'll see something else that it's not in the news, but it's a story that needs to be discovered. You need to put effort in it in order to find it. And this was in conflict with the demand.
You triggered something. You know, the most interesting part in the late millennium, in 2008, 2009, these quiet scenes were not needed or wanted by these agents. They don't want it. It's a business. It doesn't bring the front page or the inside, that beautiful moment of children enjoying or having fun. But that was my calling. This is what I wanted to do. And I remember clearly a superior of mine sending me an email, Muhammad, this is not what we want. We want you to focus on the news.
Yeah.
Few weeks after...
What did you send them in order for them to reply like that?
I used to do all this daily life, beautiful scene, life goes on.
So you spend your time photographing life during the war.
In the middle of the war, but the life part. But that's not what the paper wanted, you see, and not the business, you see.
Yeah.
And the irony, a few months after my documentation of life and wars was picked by the main magazines and paper, and the same manager congratulated me for a great job I did.
The same one who was, okay.
So that was for me confusing.
Yeah.
Also, it was rewarding because I knew this is very, very important. There is a war here, but there is a life there. And I'm covering the war, but from a different perspective. Life never stops, keeps going. Life goes on even in the middle of the conflict. And that's the thing that I wanted to focus on. Hope, light. I could easily turn my lens there, and I have that part. But there is a lot of photographers covering that, and not many focusing on the courage and resilience of the people caught in the conflict. And in no time, I remember clearly New York Times making a blog called Quiet But Telling Scenes. Mm-hmm. I remember Time magazine naming me Photographer of the Year, Best Photographer of the Year 2013, of my documentation of all of that, the daily life scene, the beauty, all of this. And then, here is the beautiful part. I started to travel around the world with AP just to do daily life. So I went to South Africa to cover a great leader's funeral, Nelson Mandele. That was one of the people that I loved and admired. I went to South Africa to cover his funeral. I remember going to Kuno, and I was just meeting the people, taking daily life impression, not the actual things, the reaction of the people. The same thing I did in Pakistan. I spent 4 years and a half just documenting daily life and challenges Afghan refugees and internally displaced people face. And this is when you learn actually photography.
Yes, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about. So turning camera to the other side, out of the news, and finding the real life stories, as somebody would call it, the real news. All of a sudden, there was nothing happening in the front. So you had to discover a story. In order to discover a story, this is where, as you said, real photography starts. Because as someone who also done a couple of documentaries prior, I know that trust is a major one. You have to gain trust. You have to approach people because they don't see only the camera, they see the person behind the camera. And in order to take like intimate moments in humans' lives, you have to be close to them and they have to open themselves to you. So how this realization came to you and how did you start working on it?
You know, trust is the key. A good photographer is the one who's able to make the invisible visible. You see, daily life photography is things we pass by every day and we don't see anymore because we take it for granted or we don't go deeper in it. You know, when you're in the outside, you only see the outside. So what I started doing is spending a lot of time in the same environment, doing my homework in advance, learning about the culture, the tradition, the language, few words. I spent 4 years and a half in Pakistan, one word, Salaam Alaikum, you know, hello, shukriya, few words. And these words open doors, you see. But also I respected the traditions. You're not allowed to take specific pictures. I would never take these pictures. So I became part of that landscape. I blended in.
But that takes time.
It takes time, and it takes a few ethical things. Respect, never invade anyone's privacy, you know, remembering who you are and why you're there. You want to take a quick picture from the outside with your long lens, you can, but that picture will show the outside. To be an insider, you have to act as an insider, and you have to respect the people. I spent time, I worked on gaining the people's trust. Trust is not something we buy or we sell. We earn it, and you earn it with respect and respect and respect. I became part of that community. And this is where I saw a world I never seen before. A world full of life and color, energy, but invisible energy that I needed to capture it in my frames. And I needed to come back to the root of photography. Things happening. So this is where I learned photography. I learned to be patient. I learned to see things you don't see normally without being part of that landscape. I learned also how to appreciate things. That's the personal. But in my photography, it became my calling that I want to come closer. I want to come closer. I want to know the story of that person, the story of that child. And one of the most interesting stories that I never speak about, you know, I was approached by Time magazine in 2014. They wanted a story about, to honor Mother's Day, they wanted me to work on a story about Afghan refugee mothers in Pakistan. And as a good soldier, I said, I'll do my best. But what they did not do their homework about, that Afghan mothers are Pashtun, you know, they wear burqa, they're very religious, they don't appear on their cousins. And me, the strangers, is going to go and work on that story? How? I remember spending 3 days looping around my kitchen's table, wondering how I'm going to do this story. And why did I say yes? I called my friend slash assistant slash driver, Mazda. I told Mazda, we have to go to the Afghan community and we have to meet Babaji. Babaji was the head of the community, a beautiful, scary man, big man with massive blue eyes and a red beard. I love this man, but I never wanted to be his enemy. We went to Babaji's home, we knocked his mud home, and I told Mazhar, please translate to him in Pashto, I want to take a picture of your woman. And in the back of my head, I said, Babaji's going to chop my head. And you know, Babaji said something in Pashto that sounded angry. Mazhar translated to me in English, but the words were gibberish in my ears. I didn't know what he said. I told him, what did he say? He said, I told you, he says, go ask the women. It gives me the shiver. We have been seeing you spending 4 years here, and you never, ever invaded anyone's privacy, did something wrong. I went knocking mud home to another. I met these women. They took off their burqa. I heard their stories. There are super women. When we see them in the media, you just see a person wearing a burqa, immediately you stereotype. But these were the mothers, the fathers, the pillar of the family. She is the person who holds the whole family, and their stories were incredible. I call them super women because they are super women. And that story taught me a lot. 6 months after, I'm walking in this camp. One of these women lifted up her burqa. She told me salam, and she put back her burqa. And that was for me the real recognition, trust.
And respect.
And that's how you earn it. You see, so without that part, I would never be where I am today. So here's where the moral compass, the guilt. what did I do to these people?
Mm.
I won through them awards. I became recognized globally. I traveled the world, but I did nothing. I took the picture, I shed light, I spreaded awareness, I shared with the world their stories, but wasn't enough for me, Galip.